Hi there, I'm Russ Moyer, coming at you today from the Eagle's Nest. I have a wonderful guest here with me from the Nashville area, Dr. Bill Greenman. Dr. Bill, thanks for joining us today.
It's a pleasure. Glad to be here.
And you're a doctor, but not a medical doctor. You're
That's
a
right.
Doctor of
theology. Doctor of theology, right.
Mm-hmm. And how long have you been in the Nashville area?
We've been there about 10 years.
And looking at your background and your past, I mean, there's been some great diversity.
Absolutely.
A professional trapeze artist in
Right.
honor of his circus, and
Yes.
in the certainly in the ministry. You have
Yes.
your main offices there in the Nashville area,
Yes,
but
we
you
do.
also do work in Kenya,
Yes, we do.
and you have a real heart for marketplace ministry.
Absolutely. I've been involved in marketplace business the entire time I've been in ministry, and actually got into it because I looked around and saw so many ministers who didn't have much in the way of income and probably didn't have much set up for retirement or anything like that, and thought, there's got to be a better way to do this. I'd like to not be in the position they're in. And so over the years, been involved in several different businesses, and nutrition, publishing, a few other things. And I always come back to nutrition because that was kind of my first love, because my body was my business so long when I was doing the circus that my wife and I had to learn how to take care of. I always give the analogy, if I was a race car driver, I'm going to take really good care of my race car. Well, my body was my race car. And so I learned how to take care of that very well, and that got me into the nutrition field.
We here at Eagle Worldwide Ministries, we believe in marketplace ministry.
Absolutely.
Both Maeve and I were in business for quite a while and knew that we were called to the marketplace.
Right.
We believe in the priesthood of the believer,
Yes.
and that there's an extended church, and there's the nuclear church that we consider church as we go to each
Right.
week, but really the people of God are actually the church. And if we're going to transform our society, we're going to have to do it outside the four walls
That's right.
of the typical conventional church building.
That's right.
And to impact such areas as politics and education, and of course business.
Yes.
And you're an associate with Max International
Yes,
now,
I am.
and you travel quite a bit.
I do. I travel all across the U.S. We right now have partners in New Zealand, Australia, Singapore, the Philippines, Thailand, of course Canada, and the U.S., and expanding as rapidly as we can.
Well, we appreciate having you here with us right now.
It's a pleasure. Yeah.
And tell us a little bit about Max International and about Max One.
Sure. Well, Max International was started in February 2007, and it was centered around a very, very unique product called Max GXL that was created by a Dr. Robert Keller. Now, Dr. Keller was an extraordinary man. He's since passed on, but he was a triple board certified medical doctor. That means he had a doctorate in medicine in immunology, and oncology, and hematology. That's pretty extraordinary to have three of those. He was also was voted as one of the top 2,000 medical doctors, scientists actually, of the 21st century. He was voted as one of the top 200 doctors in the United States, I think 7 years in a row. Very, very scholarly, top researcher, but he also had his own private practice. And that's how he came about with this formula. He was dealing with a lot of AIDS patients, people who were very critically ill. And he came to the conclusion, what was the body's last line of defense? And when he found that out, he said, well, there's got to be a first line of defense. And when he did his research, he found out it was a very unique tripeptide, which is sort of like a protein, made by our cells, called glutathione. And he found out that it did extraordinary things in the body. So he set about to create a formula that would allow the body to create its own glutathione. And took him about 3 years of research and testing different products. And then one day he said, I woke up and I had this formula in my head. And it turned out to be exactly the perfect formula. And he told his peers, over 100,000 of them from platforms all over the world, he would say, look, this came to me from the Lord. It was not mine. He said, I was no closer when I went to bed that night than I was 3 years before. He said, but there was the perfect formula. It worked. It's worked ever since. And so he said, I know it came from the Lord directly to me, and said, so I can't take credit for it, which is good. But he did, when he saw the results, he spent several years giving it to his patients. And when he saw the results, he saw how many people with diverse issues of health were being helped by the product, he said, no, we need to take this to the world. And so he approached a man named Steve Scott. Now, Stephen K. Scott, at that point, was the owner, and he was the founder of a company called American Telecast, which most people wouldn't know what American Telecast is, but they would know the infomercials that American Telecast created. Depending on how old you are, as far back as Richard Simmons creating Deal a Meal and Sweating to the Oldies and things like that. Jane Fonda had some workout equipment, Cher and a few others. He came out with skincare products, but his most famous one is Total Gym, that is the stars that you see in the infomercials, Christy Brinkley and Chuck Norris. And they've been running those commercials for almost 20 years.
And I think a lot of people have heard about Stephen Scott. And
through his books, yes.
He's written a couple of dynamic books.
Oh, he's written 6 bestseller books. And one was called Mentored by a Millionaire. Another was The Greatest Man Who Ever Lived, which of course was all about Jesus. The Richest Man Who Ever Lived, which is all about Solomon and how the book of Proverbs changed Steve Scott's life and made him extremely successful. He was an extraordinary failure, and he talks about this very candidly. And then he was challenged by a friend of his to read the book of Proverbs, read a chapter a day, and do that for 2 years, take notes and apply what he read. And at the end of 2 years, within a short time after that, he was a multimillionaire. Okay, which his friend said you would be.
Yes.
And so he just applied all the principles that he found in Proverbs. Of course, that's in that book. And now he's just written a new book called The Greatest Words Ever Spoken. And that is all of the words of Jesus in categories. So you could look up any category you want, any issue you want, and just read what Jesus said about that category. Phenomenal book. And he's coming out with study guides and things like that. So from the standpoint of success, he's an extremely successful author, and he was an extremely successful marketer. And so Dr. Keller came to him and said, help me bring this product, which he called GXL, Glutathione Accelerator, help me take this to the market. And so Steve looked at it and said, well, we can't really do it as an infomercial because we have to take care of the people. Once they get on the product, they're going to have questions and issues, and we want to make sure that we can take care of them. So they looked at several different kinds of distribution models. And the one that worked the best was what we call network marketing. I've been doing that for 35 years, very successfully. And it's 4 years old now while we're taping this, and done over $150 million worth in business and in many countries, and growing very rapidly because the product works. It actually works. And so that's kind of how it all came to market. Max was birthed out of that. Steve actually sold his position in his company that he'd built over 30 years because he said, the Lord told me this is my job for the rest of my life, is to take Max and its products to the world.
You talked about glutathione, and a lot of people who are not necessarily in the medical field don't really know what glutathione is.
Right.
But then people who have a real health consciousness, and today there's a wellness and health consciousness that is just permeating our society.
Yes, that's right.
I mean, we're all realize that now's the time really to begin to take care of our bodies,
Absolutely.
even though it was before. I think it's really coming to the forefront, and our generation is looking more and more toward health and wellness.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
what is glutathione, or what's it really all about?
Yeah, it's a great question. You mentioned that medical people might know a lot. Actually, most medical people don't know anything about it. The interesting thing about glutathione is it's been researched for over 100 years. There's 95,000 plus research articles on glutathione about all that it does, many different types of glutathione in our bodies. And there's no doubt that glutathione is powerful, that it's something you have to have, that if you can get your body to make more of it, you're going to be a healthier human being because of that kind of research. For instance, vitamin C. There's about 40,000 research articles on vitamin C. Well, everybody's heard of that. We know that it works. We know it's good for you. Doctors prescribe it now. But it took a long, long time for that to be accepted. Well, there's more than twice as many articles and research studies that have been done on glutathione, but no one's ever heard of it. And the reason is that no one's ever made a product that could help your body increase glutathione, cell to cell, because all 70 some odd trillion of your cells make glutathione. Now, I could take glutathione and I could make a supplement. There's lots of supplements. There's creams. There's even IV push if you want to take it intravenously. But your body can't assimilate it, can't absorb it because the molecule's too big. I often say if I tried to put my fist through one of these buttonholes, I could never do it. And that's kind of the way it is with your cells. The glutathione molecule is just too big to fit through the wall, the holes in the cell walls to get inside. Your body has to make it on the inside. So no one had ever made a drug, no one had ever made a supplement that would increase the body's glutathione stores, which means that you could put the elements in and then your body would turn it into glutathione. Well, that's what Dr. Keller did. He created that formula, or the Lord gave him that formula. And so when you take that product, there's no glutathione in it. There's no glutathione in Max GXL. It becomes glutathione. It's like a cake mix. I can take eggs and water and milk and sugar and chocolate and stick it in a pan. It's not a cake. But when I put it in the oven and it bakes, I pull out a cake. I transform those elements into something different. That's what happens in your body when you take this product. It goes into your cells, and then your cells turn it into glutathione. Now, you ask, what does glutathione do? Glutathione is a phenomenal element inside our bodies. And the fact that it's made by our bodies is what's so intriguing to me. Glutathione, number one, it increases your energy in every cell. The way it does that, in our cells, there's a perfect balance between a substance called ATP, which is adenosine triphosphate, and glutathione. Perfect balance. So if I raise my ATP levels, my glutathione needs to raise with it, but unfortunately the body won't do that. However, if I raise glutathione, my body will raise ATP to match it. Now, why is that important? Well, ATP is the fuel that all of our cells use for energy. It's like the gasoline inside your cells. Well, we know that anytime we burn anything, gasoline, wood, whatever it might be, there's waste left over. Same thing in our cells. When our cells use this ATP for energy, there's a waste product left over. It's called free radicals. Some people are familiar with free radicals. Oxidative stress and inflammation come from free radical activity. There's a big push in the last 15, 20 years about antioxidants. Well, glutathione is the most powerful antioxidant known to man. It gobbles up all of those free radicals, so to speak. So that's why it's important. If I raise my glutathione levels, my ATP levels go up. That means my energy goes up. So that's how glutathione raises energy. Now I can go down to the drugstore, or not drugstore, probably to a health food store, and I can buy ATP, capsules of ATP. I can take that, and my energy will go up. My ATP level will go up, but what happens is my free radical activity goes up, but my glutathione does not rise with it to take care of that extra. So it's not necessarily a good thing to do. But as long as I can get my glutathione levels up, my cells will always make the right amount of ATP to match it. It's really a great system that the Lord put in our cells.
What's the benefit of glutathione? You know, in
Sure.
layman's understanding in terms,
Sure.
what does glutathione do
Sure.
for me if I have more of it or less of it
Sure.
in my body?
Well, number one, it's the energy, because it allows your body to make and use more ATP. So your energy level goes up. So if your energy level goes up in every single cell, that means it's going up in every organ, in every muscle, and every vein, everything, in all your glands, and every system of the body has more energy. Well, if I had a rheostat, or a way to dim and heighten the light coming out of all the lights in here, all I'm doing is either increasing or decreasing the amount of electricity going to the light. The light hasn't changed. It's just the amount of energy that it's getting that causes it to burn brighter or more dim. Same thing in your cells. If I increase the energy in every cell, I'm increasing the energy in this organ or the system, so therefore it kind of burns brighter. It has more, it can do more because it has more energy. It's like stepping on the gas in your car. You go faster. Why? Is anything changed in the car? No, I've just given it more power. Same thing happens in your cells and in your organs. If as soon as I increase my ATP by increasing my glutathione, I increase the energy, the power, everything works better. Everything across the board. I have people ask me about many different kinds of physical maladies, diseases, things like that. Will glutathione help? I tell them all the same thing. If I can raise your energy levels, I'm going to help. No matter what's going on in your body, your health is going to increase. I don't even have to address a disease state just because of that. But that's not the only thing that it does. Besides increasing the energy, it also, as I said, can stop all the free radical activity. Well, free radicals are what cause damage to the cells, which then causes inflammation, and inflammation is what is at the foundation of almost every physical issue. Almost all diseases start with inflammation.
I think most people don't realize that.
Oh, no, that's right.
We think of inflammation as like if a joint or something gets really out of whack.
Right.
And I've suffered a little bit from that.
Sure.
I've seen a
Me too.
dramatic impact, glutathione coming on the scene. But inflammation is more than just like an inflamed joint or a sore
Absolutely.
muscle.
Oh, of course.
Could you explain a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, what happens with a free radical, what happens is it steals electrons from other molecules and cells, and that's what causes the damage, because it goes from free radical activity to oxidative stress. Means now I've got all these new molecules that are becoming free radicals themselves, because this free radical stole from that good cell, made it a free radical. So you're just continuing to perpetuate this problem. It just continues to grow. And that's what oxidative stress is. It's just, there's a new source of stress on the cells, and then the organs, and then the systems. Well, that turns into inflammation. Inflammation, as you said, it can be in a joint from physically damaging the joint, or it can be in your arteries. An inflamed artery is going to get filled with cholesterol plaque because it's trying to cover it up. Well, we used to say, well, you've got a cholesterol problem. Well, now science knows it's an inflammation problem. There's something in those cells in the wall of the artery that are causing it to be inflamed, oxidative stress. So they were just treating the cholesterol, but now we're learning, we need to treat the source of the inflammation. Well, glutathione is one of the fastest and best ways to do that. And we know that scientifically, but nobody could ever get the glutathione levels up until now, until this product. So not only are we getting rid of the free radicals, but we also have the ability to stop, through the glutathione, to stop the inflammation itself. Well, if I can knock down inflammation, and I can get rid of free radicals, and I can also detoxify the body, which is what glutathione does, it will actually go in and bond to toxins, heavy metals included, and pull them out of the cells into the bloodstream to go through the liver and then be eliminated from the body. So if I eliminate free radicals, inflammation, I eliminate toxins, and I eliminate heavy metals, at the same time I'm raising energy, everything across the board is going to work better, and you're going to be healthier, no matter what the issue is.
Now, it sounds very complicated, but simple in hearing it, but like to do all of these things, it must be hard for you to implement and hard in your daily life. But Max 1 and
absolutely.
And GXL really are very easy.
Absolutely, you're just taking a capsule. I mean, up until this point, as I said, I mentioned you could go to some specific doctors, pay hundreds of dollars to get an IV, where they'll push glutathione into your veins. You may assimilate 10% or less of that, and you'll feel really good for about 2 hours, and then it's over. Okay. This, you take a couple of capsules a day, and you're building up your stores in a natural way. You're not forcing anything in there. You're not stimulating something, making it do something. You're supplying the raw materials. You're giving it the cake mix. And then it gets to make the cake and eat the cake, So another way I put this is, you got to think about a rain barrel. Like, think your cells, there's one big rain barrel. And in that rain barrel, it's filled with glutathione. But most people's levels are low because we hit about age 20 and our glutathione development, our glutathione production in our cells begins to stop, slows down. And you lose about 1% of that production per year the older you get past 20. So in my 50s, I'm 30% down from what I had when I was in my 20s.
I'm a little more than that.
Oh, yeah. So just do the math. However old you are after 20, that's how much you've lost, 1%. So we've got to find a way to increase that production. Well, here's a way. The rain barrel can be filled back up. And when we fill that rain barrel, good things happen. because the inflammation goes down, the toxins go down, the heavy metals go down, the energy it goes up. Those are all good things, right? So it's all about filling the rain barrel. Some people say, well, how long does it take before I notice that? There's no way to know. Everybody's different. I mean, you and I are different. You know, we have different backgrounds, different histories. We're different size, different genetics. There's no way to say that, hey, this is going to happen in this amount of time. Now, we have statistics we know that are pretty good, averages. We know that 1 out of 10 people, or about 10%, are going to see a really good result they can feel in about 24 hours. We know about 30% are going to have a good result in a week or so. And we know 80% are going to have a good result in 30 days or less. Now, that's pretty amazing right there.
Now, one thing that you said to me at one point was very important, is that you can measure this.
Yeah.
You know, like there are some things you say, well, how did you feel? And did you feel better? Because, you know, it is about feeling better, but it's actually much more about being healthier.
Yes.
And knowing that your chemical levels and your glutathione levels are correct. This is measurable.
Yes, it is measurable. That was one of the brilliant things about Dr. Keller. Because he was a hematologist, he's a blood specialist. So his job was, okay, if I'm going to give people this product, I have to prove that it actually works. So therefore, I'm going to figure out a blood test to check the glutathione levels before and after they take the product. Well, there's 2 types of blood cells. You've got white blood cells and you've got red blood cells. Your red blood cells can live for about a week, 2 weeks. Your white cells live for about 2 hours. So he said, I'm going to come up with a way to measure glutathione in the white blood count because it's more real time. So he did that, and now it's actually a standard blood test. But I could take your blood if I had the ability, lab to do that. I could take a blood test, show your glutathione levels, give you the GXL, take your blood test about an hour later, and it would show the increase in glutathione. That's quantifiable with a blood test. I don't know of any other nutritional supplement on the market anywhere that can say that you can actually take this product and you'll see an increase within an hour.
And away from the Max International, Max One product, and GXL, I think if people begin to look at the research on glutathione, and there's a lot of it out there. I mean, they can Google it on their,
they can.
On the internet, and find out about glutathione and its real effect on the body.
Absolutely.
We've heard some remarkable testimonies, and I'm sure you have a lot of them.
Oh, many of them.
Like, what kind of things does glutathione do in the end?
In the end, sure.
People? Yeah.
Well, let's talk about inflammation, because that's pretty standard. Pain. I mean, if you want to call it pain. Not a disease, it's just an issue, right? So myself, because I'd been a professional athlete for 17 years and had been doing sports since I was 5, well, by the time I was 35, I had over 20 different breaks and dislocations, and injuries to my body. So I had pain in most every joint at some point or another in any given day. That was about 25 years that was going on. And I understood nutrition and physiology and biochemistry, so I was taking products that I knew would knock down the inflammation and knock down the pain. And so I was keeping it in check, but it was always there. Well, within 10 days of taking this GXL product that Dr. Keller created, every pain in my body disappeared. All of it. That's been over 2 years ago. Never has returned. I'm very happy, but that's not all that it did. I also, that took 10 days, but in 2 days, I noticed that my energy levels were even all day long. And in my 50s, I was, afternoons were like, oh man, need to take a nap, or do something. And now, all day long, I never have a drop in my energy levels. About 5 days in, I noticed that my concentration levels had increased dramatically. I can be very multi-focused, where I'm doing 3 or 4 things, 5 things at once. And the problem is you may not get all of them done the way you need to when you like that. So I noticed that I'd been on the product for maybe 4 or 5 days, and I got up from my computer and realized I had sat there doing one task for 3 hours without moving. Never got out of that chair. I've never done that in my life. And so that made me think, wait a minute, what's going on here? What changed? And I began to monitor my activity and realized my concentration level was dramatically increased. Well, that makes sense because there's more electricity, there's more power going to my brain, so everything's working at a higher level. Well, then I also noticed at about day 7 or 8 that my sleep pattern changed. Now, we all need to go into deep sleep. It's called rapid eye movement, or REM sleep, alpha wave sleep, because that's where your body's in the deepest state of rest, and that's where it does the rebuilding, that's where it does the regeneration. Well, most people don't get that. Most people are sleep deprived. We don't get into the REM sleep anymore, whether we're up too late or too many lights on or too much stress, whatever it might be, right? Well, I noticed that, man, I went to bed and I didn't wake up until morning. You know, I was like 7 hours later, I'm like, wow, this is amazing. That hardly ever happens to me. I would wake up multiple times a night, just wake up. Why am I awake? I don't know. Go back to sleep. Doesn't happen anymore. Well, that was huge for me. And plus, I knew that my dream state had increased. A lot of people say, well, I don't know if I'm sleeping any better. I always ask the question, are you dreaming more? Are your dreams more vivid? Are you remembering them? Oh, yeah, that happens. Well, that only happens in the deepest REM sleep, in the deep alpha wave sleep. So you may not think you're sleeping any different because you've always slept, been asleep all night, but you may not have been in the deep sleep. So that's another thing that I noticed. And all these things are part of what glutathione is purported to do. So I've heard multiple testimonies, I've probably hundreds over the last couple of years, just about every kind of thing you can think of. Of course, we can never talk about diseases because this is a supplement. This is not a drug. But pretty much, if you can tie together those things I just mentioned, more energy, better sleep, better concentration, all the other things, getting rid of the bad stuff, your health is going to improve pretty dramatically.
And all over the internet, when you look up glutathione, it talks about all these different areas that are going to be enhanced or eliminated, depending on its effect.
Sure.
But there is a dramatic effect when you raise your glutathione.
Oh, absolutely, across the board. Yeah.
When you begin to look at what's happening right now in our society, there are very few people that get a full night's sleep, or that are walking around without stress in their life, or have not been through, especially people at our age. We want to continue to be active.
That's right.
It's one thing to live longer, but I want the quality of my life to be better, and I want to be able to live life to the fullest, live life to the max. And in order to do that, I have to really begin to address some of the issues that are going on in my body in the aging process.
Yes.
And how does glutathione actually function in the aging process?
Sure. Well, it's probably, if not the most, one of the most important markers of anti-aging. For all the reasons we just stated, one of the major problems of aging is the loss of glutathione. When your glutathione levels go down, your energy levels go down, all those bad things go up, those are the things that cause aging. Those are the things that cause the symptoms of aging. Most people, when they get older, what's the problem? Oh, I'm tired, or I don't have the strength I used to have, or my mind doesn't work as well. How many times have you heard, oh, I'm having a senior moment because I forgot something? That's the aging process, and it's primarily due to the loss of glutathione. Now, that loss of glutathione is happening no matter what. Even if you're super healthy, it's happening just because everything slows down. But if you've got other stressors on you, like you just mentioned, hey, the stress, it can be financial stress, it can be relational stress, it can be physical stress, mental stress. The more stress you have, no matter what it looks like, for me it was traumatic stress, breaking things, Whatever that stress is, the more stress you have, the faster your glutathione decreases, the faster the aging process comes on. We've all seen it. Someone who is super stressed, they look older than the people around them. Or if maybe they've had just so much trauma against their body, they just look older. And it's true, they do, because they have aged more, because their glutathione is being used up at a higher rate to take care of all the free radicals released by all the stress.
What does GXL, Max One, and the Max International product line have to have it stand out from other types of glutathione use with it?
Well, we mentioned it before. There's only a couple of other products that you can actually purchase that will increase your glutathione stores, at the cellular level. A couple of those simply stimulate the body. They'll stimulate, there's a product that stimulates a gene. There's another one that stimulates pressure points in the body to make the body. It forces the body to create glutathione. Max's products don't do that. Max supplies the cake mix. We supply the raw materials that your cells then make it from. Here's why that's important. If I, pulled out a gun and said, now Russ, I'm going to give you 1 hour to make a doll out of cloth and put it on this table next to me. If you don't do that, I'm going to shoot you. But you can't move from that chair, and you can't use anything. You can't go get material. What material are you going to use? You're going to use what you're wearing, right? You're going to take your coat off, and you're going to start making something, all right? In our bodies, so you just had to steal from yourself something you had to take something you owned and turn it into this for threat of your life. That's what happens in our bodies. If I press a gene or if I hit a pressure point and I make my body create glutathione, I am forcing my body to take the nutrients from itself, to steal from itself to make that glutathione, because I haven't given it anything to work with. The problem with that, if I do that day after day after day after day, it takes a lot of energy and a lot of material to make glutathione in 70 trillion cells. So long term, not a good idea. Okay, that's what sets us apart, plus the patents, plus the research. We got clinical trials that prove that when you take this product, when you take GXL, the average increase in glutathione is over 270% within 60 days. There's nothing on the market that's ever done anything like that. There's some protein powders that may increase it 20%, 30%, something like that. But compare that to 270% plus. And then also the fact that you don't know how much do you take of that protein powder. Do you even like protein powder? I mean, there's things like that. And then all those products, I'm not saying they're bad and they're evil, nothing like that. It's just there's no comparison because we're supplying raw materials. We have all the studies that prove that this happens and it happens this fast. That's the difference.
I mean, if you're out there today and you were hearing Dr. Greenman talk about glutathione and talk about the Max International product line, if you'd like some more information about that, about what it can do in your body, or you'd like to see how you can get a hold of some of this, you can check our website at www.ariseglory.com. And you'll be able to look up on there some different articles and videos and other things having to do with the Max product line and also with the GXL line. And just appreciate you being with us today. And we'll talk a little more. Hopefully you'll be back with us again here.
That'd be a pleasure.
And you'll be able to talk a little bit more about Max International and about what you're doing as you travel around the world. I guess it must be very rewarding for you to see so many people helped by the product.
Oh, absolutely. And not just helped by the product. I mean, obviously that's wonderful. But we're seeing people who, like I said, all the ministers that I help a lot of ministers get involved in Max and make money. Some are well known, some will ever know. But changing their lives from a financial standpoint as well. That's just as rewarding to me as seeing someone get healthy.
You know, and it's exciting to see Christians at work in the marketplace, being able to produce something for, kingdom wealth building principles and concepts, putting together not just a good product line, but integrity in business and it all coming together. I think this is the right timing for all these things.
I agree.
Again, thank you very much for joining us today. And thank you for joining us, and I hope you'll check at the www.ariseglory.com or give us a call at area code 289-286-1400. This is Russ Moyer and Dr. Greenman here with you today. Thank you for joining us today from the Eagle's Nest. You have a great day, and God bless you.